You're listening to TeaLife Audio, a podcast about the Japanese way of tea and related arts. For show notes and other resources, go to tealife.audio.
Welcome to episode 106. My name is Marius.
My name is Ulla.
So it will be just the two of us today for a little bit of a Urasenke episode. I was looking at our Amazon affiliate thing and I noticed that a lot of people have been buying the Temai books that we put the list out for on our page. So basically, every time someone buys one of those, we get a little bit of advertisement bounty. So the sum of that adds up to that we now can afford to edit another episode. So that's why I was thinking that was a good excuse to have a pure Urasenke episode. So today I wanted to talk about Ikkyaku Itte.
Ikkyaku Itte.
I think we should try first to explain what it is. Maybe you know something about the wording. So this is when you have the host and you have a guest, not a group of guests.
Yes, Ikkyaku means one guest and Itte, one teishu. So one guest, one host, Chaji.
And personally, I see them popping up a bit often in my life. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it.
Yes.
I haven't so far really landed on a format, or because a lot of the things we do kind of depend on the interaction and between the guests, and that the guests have some sort of company when the host is busy doing other things. So have you ever done Ikkyaku Itte?
Well, I haven't, because I usually have company. I mean, I think Ikkyaku Itte is a natural Chaji to happen when you're a tea person that doesn't have other tea people around them. Like with me and Aaron, we're both doing tea, so we're usually supporting each other when we do something. And so I think when you're the lonely tea person, that's what is likely to happen to you, that you'll have to have Ikkyaku Itte fairly early in your tea life.
That's exactly where I've seen it happen.
Right. Because you will have this one guest coming, you think you can handle it when you're alone. One guest, you should be able to do it right. And then, yes, it ends up being Ikkyaku Itte. And it probably used to be a very common tea gathering in the older days. People just did it themselves. Although if you look at the kaiki, at the reports from the Chajis, like the records of Chajis from the past, and you see the teishu and a place and a time when it was done, and then the list of guests, and it's usually more than one. You usually see 3-5 people in a list. But of course, those teishus probably did have a mizuya help. So I would see Ikkyaku Itte as a fairly advanced Chaji when you're a seasoned tea person inviting your one guest that you really want to focus on. You don't want any other distractions, and it's just the two of you having a Chaji. And I think in my tea life, I try to do those things really as, I mean, I have a great respect towards having a Chaji, so I try to really do the best I can. So usually my best I can is have somebody help me. I'm still not feeling like I can do it just by myself good enough that I would feel it happened. Because I'm still, researching what Chaji is.
It's kind of a paradox that you end up in a modern context to having to do Ikkyaku Itte early in your tea life, or when the group that you're affiliated with is small, but still it ought to have been something you did late in your tea career.
Yeah, it's supposed to be something that you do when you're really, really good. And it is important probably to throw yourself in that situation and just do the best you can. And I'm sure it's a good Chaji too. But at the same time, I have a feeling Chaji is a flow between a teishu, the host, and the guest. And you're supposed to know exactly how your kitchen looks like, know where everything is. You're supposed to be doing this rice for years and years and years, so you know exactly how your pot reacts to different things. And you know exactly the time of day, how long the light will last, how, long I need the candle to burn, and every single thing, every single detail you've done so many times that it just naturally falls in place. Because, a lot of Chajis we do might be like that, in the middle of it, we just run and we're like, oh, sorry, I forgot this. Oh, sorry, I forgot that. And that's fine too. But I imagine you try to have this Ikkyaku Itte in a moment when your teishu stuff, your guest, your host work is already, really, really worked. Like, what is the time of day,
Yeah,
how you
you
want
need
it
more
to flow.
planning.
Or it just has to be such a
everything needs to be
normal
smoother.
routine for you. Yeah. I wouldn't even know if it's planning, because for us it is planning. Like if I'm having a chaji, I need to take my, kaiseki dogu out. I have to have the bowls taken out of a storage and, prepared. But I was actually thinking about it. If your kitchen is ready for it, like you have a shelf where the kaiseki dogu is always on, and you know exactly where your rikyubashi is, because it's right in a drawer together, with your forks and other cutlery. And you know exactly where the, things to cut your rice are, and you don't have to look for it. You don't have to prepare it, because for us, preparing a chaji does take a day. We have to rearrange our kitchen so that it's set for having a kaiseki preparation for how many guests we're having. But actually, if your kitchen was always like that, where the hishyaku is hanging, and then it shouldn't take that much. That's probably the life we're supposed to be living.
I agree in the front up planning. In what you're saying, in the upfront planning is one part, but from the times that I've tried to do it, and I often have ended up doing it because my wife and I have changed a lot of the Norwegian traditions to include a chaji.
Yeah.
But during these very family holidays, none of my tea friends are able to join a chaji. They're all busy with their family. So those often turn out to be Ikkyaku Itte. And especially the food preparation is where I get in trouble, because if you have a few guests, you can give the guests some food, and then you can go away and they'll eat and they'll talk and they'll do some things together. And then you give them more food and you go away and back and forth. But once there's no one to keep that one guest company,
you have to be
really
there.
feel like the food should be, here's all the food, and of course I'll join you with my tray.
Yeah, obviously. I mean, the food has to be going. Like if you have dishes that will come later, it has to be going without you. So that's why I'm saying you have to know the kitchen process so well that you don't have to be there. And you know exactly that, if I run now and bring this dish, it's ready. So, you have to be very...
Yeah, and choose dishes carefully has been my
Of course.
success so far, is to really pick something that you can leave unattended and just put on the plate or quickly.
Yeah, so it's planning, your preparation and your technical work is going at the same time as the chaji is already happening.
But if we start at the beginning of the chaji, already in a koshikake, right, or the machiai, the guest would come into the machiai, they would sit together and they would have a conversation together. Already there, I start feeling like, should the guest just be alone in here? Shouldn't someone be there to keep the guest company?
Well, you don't have that person because that's usually your hanto, that's your helper. So the idea is you don't have that helper. And you're inviting a guest. If it's an Ikkyaku Itte, you're inviting a guest you know very well. So you probably will know if they need a company or not. You will bring them something, a welcoming, warm sip of something. You can talk for a minute. You can leave them there. People like contemplating alone. We're kind of loners sometimes, right? And we like contemplative atmosphere. So it's not like you have to keep them company all the time.
So does that mean you think that in, for instance, Machiai, there's in the Urasenki style, a fixed interaction or a set kind of, you serve something. So there's a natural point for the host to come in, have a small talk, and then once they go to the koshikake, would you just do the koshikake entry as normal? Would just leave the guest in the garden for a little while?
Yeah, I would leave them probably in a machiai for most of the time too, because, they are not really alone. You set it up. So whatever you did in preparation for them, you're there with them. There is a incense burning. There is a smell in the machiai that is a welcoming smell. There is a scroll. There's a toko you chose for them. So they are not alone, even if they sit there for a while. They're thinking what this guy had in mind inviting me here. So they're quite busy. And then koshikake, sure, let them, calm down before everything starts and do the mukaetsuke, like the silent bow before everything starts silently. And sure, it's a great beginning of a chaji. We probably exchanged few words, we saw each other, but then we start anew. We start with a silent bow in anticipation what is going to happen, and you go in. The teishu goes in, and you follow him into the tea room.
And then if you just follow the progression along, usually the first part is easy, where you have the greeting and the talking about all the things, because the host and the guest is supposed to be in the same room and exchanging pleasantries.
Right.
Then, depending if it's koicha, it's furo or ro season, but let's ignore that. So, sumi, the tamae parts. Sumi tamae is, for me, it's easy. There's nothing needs to change, I think.
No, although this first exchanging pleasantries, I don't think it has to be that long. Like in a usual chaji, it's probably a little longer because you don't really get that much time to talk to each guest separately. You just don't get that time. So you actually want to exchange few words with each guest in the beginning. Here you don't have to do that because you have this whole chaji to talk to each other. So I imagine there is not that much talking in the beginning. They might just smile at each other. Maybe they'll talk about the scroll. And there's this, whole day in front of them to talk because, you'll be in a room most of the time. So the food is done together if the food goes first. And you talk the whole time through the food. And in tamais, like you're saying, probably not much has to change. Although koicha, you drink together, right? So there will be things that change.
But let's do the food first. Let's just follow the flow through, because I have some questions or things to discuss surrounding the food. Because usually in Urasenki we ask once, we serve the tray.
Ozen, the first ozen.
Yeah. So and then the guest tastes the food.
Right.
And then you bring in some more food, and then the guest usually asks, please take your own tray and join us.
Teishu shoban.
Yeah, if this is only one guest, is that the point where the host should join the guest, or should the host join the guest even earlier?
I think it depends on what you're serving, but you get probably most of the food you want to be served to your guest, and then bring your tray. And there might be something that is coming later that you'll have to run to the kitchen and get. But I would say it's setting up as, like finding this moment when your guest has everything that you wanted them to have, and you bring the same stuff for you. I wouldn't stick to this regular kaiseki nagare so much, the regular kaiseki flow. So I think the teishu shoban starts when you sit with them, and you might want something warm that will, be coming later during the kaiseki. There is this common thought in the tea world that kaiseki is the first tray, and then definitely the nimono, the warm soup. Like if you don't have the nimono, it's not really considered a kaiseki. You know, you're having this first meal, the rice and the miso or some shiru and the muko for the sake. And there might be something extra coming, some other dishes coming. You can have some extra bowl of something that will be accompanying it. But then there should be this warm soup that is, you know, expressing the thought of your kaiseki this time. And I would have a really hard time not serving nimono, I must say. So I would probably try to sneak the nimono in a mid kaiseki. Yeah. So, but I would think, you know, you try to set up your guest and then you sit with him and you start together. So you do this, you know, opening the bowls and things together, probably. And a lot of times it's also serving the rice from the kama. So the chahan gama is often a case in Ikkyaku Itte. So then you have a source of rice in the room. You don't even have to run out and get more rice. So there is a lot of things actually to consider if it's an Ikkyaku Itte. Because maybe, you know, doing a chahan gama is a good idea, you know. Although chahan gama...
I've just seen photos of that on the internet, but I've never really understood where it belongs.
So it belongs, you know, with a very poor tea environment where you have your one kettle and you have to do the rice in it and then your tea, then your water for tea. But nowadays it rarely happens that way because people have two kettles. So they do one for rice and then they have another kettle going ready with hot water for tea. Because, you know, cleaning this rice out of the kettle before you get the water for tea is really troublesome and takes time. But the idea would be, original idea is, I have only one kettle, so I have to use it to make the rice for you, and then I have to clean it up and warm up the water for tea in the same utensil. So that was kind of the origin of it.
But then you boil the rice in the furo, for instance.
Yeah, mostly that would be raw. Mostly that would be a raw time thing because it just visually, I mean aesthetically kind of falls into a raw feel. But yeah, so if you do that in your Ikkyaku Itte, you're a little easier on running out and getting more rice. I mean, you don't have to do that. The source is right in the room with you. But then you have the technicality of, do I clean this rice out and use the same kettle for hot water? That's kind of a long process. I would need this guest to arrange the flowers during that time and do something else while they wait for my hot water for tea. So a lot of people, just bring in a new kettle.
One of the things that I enjoyed when Adam showed it is some of the things that Ueda does to occupy the guest. In that, if you're short on time, they would do like sort of a jiku kasari. That would mean that the guest would actually hang the scroll. And then you could actually get the guest to do some of the work. Like if I had only one guest for dinner at home, that guest would probably lend me a hand in the cooking process of making the meal together. And it has, for me, has some of the same feeling if the guest could do like, okay, so I'll go fix the food while you hang the scroll and do the flowers and kind of share the duties a bit.
But it, I think, naturally happen. It would naturally happen. I mean, I don't imagine if I was ever invited for an Ikkyaku Itte, I would love to help. I mean, you know, you don't want to sit in a room, just wait for them. Of course, you're running out and trying to help as much as you can. Yeah, and hanging scroll by the guest, we don't learn that. I mean, our jiku kazari is you hanging the scroll in front of them. But I can imagine if you have...
Yeah, it's a very different feeling from the two schools there. The Senki way is like, I have a super famous scroll. You get to see it for like 2 minutes and then it goes away.
But, you know, tea is a live form. I mean, we learn those forms as a set form. But then the trick is understand the form and then go beyond it. So the problem is, you know, I can't feel like, oh, I'm the only one who can hang the scroll in front of my guests for a little bit and then I take it away. Because I imagine, if I have a scroll, for example, that my guest is more involved with than I am, because maybe I got it, but it's written by a person that my guest knows or is a closer person to my guest than to me, then I could be like, and this is the scroll of this guy, of this, Zen teacher of yours. Why don't you hang it up for us? And I wouldn't even have to, I wouldn't have any problem doing it, even though I know my form, because my guest also knows his form, so he knows how to hang the scroll in front of everybody. And I would have absolutely no problem telling them, it's a moment when you should do it, not me. And yeah, I mean, for different reasons. For the time reason, because, I want you busy, or for the reason of, it's your moment. I want you to have this moment. That's absolutely, yeah. So I think in Urasenka, because we have so many things figured out, we have so many things that are printed, we have so many things that are put into a temae for, transmission purposes, that it's really easy to think, oh, that's the way we do it. But it's not the way we do it. It's the way we learn it. And then how we do it, that's your tea. That's your tea.
That's a different topic. And
we're getting off topic.
But we'll talk a little bit about it anyway. But still, for me, I think the way we're teaching tea, I think we're giving, sometimes it feels that we're only really giving lip service to, you should do what you want. This is what you learned, but you're free to do what you want. Because there's a lot of people that is very critical if you diverged from what's in the book or what's the written form.
Yeah, that's true. And Japan has a lot of those kind of things going on. But I would say there is a clause on it, there is some kind of condition on it. Do what you want, but, the condition is, what you're doing. I mean, it's not just go around what I can't do and, do what I want because I have to, because, the conditions are and so on. I would say if you don't go easy on yourself, if you really try to understand the form, you try to go deeper and deeper into what you're doing, and you're changing things or you're doing things different than what a textbook says, comes from a place of knowing and understanding, people that know and understand shouldn't have any problem with it. But it takes two. I mean, it takes two people trying to go beyond the form, understanding it, making it your own. And it's a process. It's not an easy thing. So, of course, you will meet a lot of people who will tell you textbook is the only way. And I agree, textbook is the only way till you understand the textbook and you can actually, somehow modify it to what your tea is. Okay, but we have to get back to Ikkyaku. Right.
So one of the things that I like to, you had nimono. You said that without nimono, you don't feel like it's a kaiseki.
That's maybe more of a modern way of thinking about kaiseki, but yeah, people think this warm soup that is arranged because, nimono has this feature of being actually designed for exactly this moment, this one chaji. So the ingredients of it, how they're put together, what do you express through what you put in it, how you arrange it. Nimono is, an art in itself. So I would say I would try to keep it, even in an Ikkyaku Itte.
For me, I really, Hassun is my favorite.
Oh, Hassun is, you can't do it without Hassun. Okay, we're past Nimono. Hassun, definitely.
No, so just, we can have a talk about nimono. I've had lots of problems with nimono. I've never become really good at making nimono.
Sure, I think it's a big one, yeah.
And for me, it's one of the hardest to do with the constraints. It should be a clear soup. There should be something in the middle.
Not necessarily, but the base is the clear soup. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I keep stumbling in people's food restrictions and So I have someone who don't eat anything from the sea, and I have another person who don't eat any meat, and it's like, this is a nightmare. So, and especially for Nimono, I feel it's really, really hard to do it in a good way.
Yeah, but it's possible.
But anyway, Hasun.
Yeah. Okay.
That I always get in there because I enjoy the Shidori sake, and when I do it with people learning tea, I always think it's a good learning opportunity because it's something that is hard to understand when someone just explains it to you, but it's very neat when it flows in a real chaji. But when you only have your one guest, would you still do Hasun?
I would, because I love Hasun too. I mean, the Chidorizake, you mean the drinking with them, right? Not just the Hasun tray.
Sharing of the cup.
Yes, because actually in Ikkyaku Itte you have many occasions to share with your guest because, like we already talked, they drink koicha together, which usually doesn't happen. So that's a great moment of unity, and drinking tea together, great. But in a regular chaji, you don't get that moment with your guests, but you drink the sake with them. So in a regular chaji, chidori, I would say, is even more important because that's your moment of real unity when all the guests are united, but also with the teishu. The teishu is in that flow right with them. And koicha, we just don't do that when the numbers are bigger. But with Ikkyaku Itte, you have that moment with koicha too. So somebody might say, well, I don't need the chidorizake because I'll have the koicha with them. Well, I like the moments of unity, multiplied if they can be. So I guess drinking with them and then having a koicha with them, why not? It's a, great time.
Another question that just popped into my mind. When you're eating, would you sit the place where the second guest usually would sit, or would you sit more like facing the guest?
Depends on your room.
This might be my Western brain.
I would say it depends on the room, but yeah, facing more than sitting next to is probably better. So like at an angle, I mean, depending on how your room is set up, but yeah, absolutely. I guess facing is better.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, easier to talk. Unless you want to rub your shoulders.
Yeah. It's cold, you need to sit close together. So before Hasun, I imagine you would pick up your tray, carry it out of the tea room, back into the misia, come back.
And what comes
with Hasun?
Well, depends. The meal might not be done. There might be still something. I'm not sure, I would have to go through the flow of that kaiseki designed for that day. But I would keep the tray, I guess, till the end. You're, with them till the end. There's no need to clean up your tray and not clean up theirs.
Okay. Yep. Would you still drink from the first guest's cup?
So that's what I was thinking. Do you need another cup?
Your cup is already there.
I was wondering, do you really need another cup? Maybe just drink from one cup for the whole thing. I would have to, I never really designed food for Ikkyaku Itte in my head. So, I'm very theoretical. But,
This is what you should do for Aaron's next birthday.
Well, yeah, if the kids can be taken care of. See, we can't do it without help. We need somebody taking care of the kids. Yeah, but that's a good idea. I'll think about that.
So we would eat, we do the Hasun more or less the standard way, but the issue would be, like you said, did you share a cup all the way through the chaji, or if you didn't, then there's already 2 cups and maybe it feels artificial to then start sharing the cup?
No, if there is 2 cups in the room, no, it's because drinking from the same utensil, it's again this koicha feel of sharing, of joining the flow of, you and this one guest together. It's absolutely, definitely sharing.
Okay, I'm just trying to think what comes next in the kind of the flow of a chaji.
Well, there is the sumi problem. You could have them do the sumi because that gives you an extra time. If sumi is before the food, then you have extra time for food preparation. if it's after the food, you have extra time for next things, for sweets and stuff. So, yeah, definitely using your guests as much as possible to keep them busy and give yourself more time. And then going out for nakadachi might be nice because you probably want to at least wipe the floor before the tea happens in the same place.
Yeah, and often you need to set up something. Like for koicha, you would put in a mizusashi and the chai there, or maybe bringing a tana.
So getting them out for that, and yeah.
Okay, so then to koicha. Would, again, the question of, we all know how you make the tea, you serve the tea, the first guest gets the tea.
And then you leave right away. Teishu position?
Yes,
no.
you stand up and
you join them. You join them.
Do you leave your fukusa behind?
I would leave it behind. Yes, because it stays with the fukusa there stays for you in the teishu position. I mean, it still depends, because if it's a just 2-mat tea room, there is no way you can move much. If it's, a very tiny koma situation, or if it's a bigger room situation. If it's bigger, you move and you join with them and drink the tea with them in a different place, not in a temaeda. And we keep that. Actually, we do learn that in Shijishiki. So it's not like, we don't do it ever. This Teishu leaving the space and joining the guests for tea.
Yeah. I've forgotten most of the Shichijishiki.
Well, you need people for that. You need a group.
Yeah, that's why I've forgotten that. Yeah, you need a big group, actually, because you need a group at a certain level.
Yes, you need at least 5 people that will be fairly fluent.
And if they're confused by regular hakobi usucha,
throwing an extra form at them is torture. Yeah.
During usucha, would the guest whisk the tea for the host, or would the host whisk his own tea? Or not?
I would imagine the guest by then is ready to make tea. Yeah, I see absolutely no problem switching spaces. Yeah, they might want to do that for you.
Good. So, should we move on to the poem?
Yeah, I was just thinking, let's finish the Chaji. So, yeah, there might be something, light going on in the end, and the usu being done, by the guest or things like that, and then they leave, and that's really a hard part still for me, but it should be easier with Ikkyaku Itte. So you really see them off, and they disappear. That's it, They don't really hang out, maybe. That would be a beautiful moment. I would like to live through that. I mean, actually feeling like I want to keep this moment, and then they disappear and you're like, oh, I wish they didn't have to go. That would be beautiful. Because, it's so hard. I mean, isn't it super hard? Nowadays people have the Chaji and they leave, and you want them back and you want to talk to them and you want to explore that topic more, and they want to help you clean up, and they come back and they clean you and they help you, in the kitchen, and that's great. But at the same time, this beauty of just seeing them off and they're gone, and that's it. There is no more. This sadness of there is no more. This time I need to do it again because there is no more. It's very nice moment. Yeah.
Many of the Chajis I've been to, the kind of location have made that not happen, in a sense that when I went to Paris and Adam did a Chaji for Anthony and myself, it was in his apartment where we were staying.
Exactly, so you have to come back.
After the Chaji, it was like there's nowhere to go.
Plus, I need to clean my kitchen, right?
But again, other places, it's been exactly like that. You're saying where the Misia team deals with everything else afterwards.
Yeah, I just like keeping this ending kind of clean. Of course, if they come back later, things happen, that's okay. But having that moment of, sadness, like this real, heart-piercing sadness that they're leaving and you don't want them to go. pretty nice moment. Okay, so we finished the Chaji and we're trying to do the poem, right?
Yes. So I hope you will read the poem.
三つ釘は中の釘より両脇と二つわりなる真ん中にうて。
For a 3-hook scroll, position the hooks starting with the center dart. Divide the alcove in half and aim for the heart.
Thank you for that great reading and translation. It's kind of unusual these days to have 3 scrolls.
It doesn't usually happen, yes. But I've seen, even in Warsaw, there is a tokonoma for 3 scrolls, which was surprising at the ambassador's residence. They have a yojo-hanti room, and it has a tokonoma with 3 hooks. So the 3 hooks actually does happen.
So how big is the tokonoma then? Is it 1 mat tokonoma?
It's a 1 mat and maybe not even 1 mat deep. But I think they were trying to make it look a little more formal. And nowadays, still, there is scrolls that come in pairs. There are scrolls that come in 3s or 5s. So it's nice to have a place to do that. It's a classical tea tokokazari too. That's how we started when we were doing tea in this showing style rooms. 3 scrolls in a tokonoma was pretty much a normal way. Then Murata Shuko.
These 3s, the poem says the spread of the hooks, but are they even height?
Yeah, they are all by the ceiling, but so that tokonoma I was talking about in Warsaw in the ambassador's residence is interesting because actually this poem wouldn't matter for it at all because it has like a sliding panel in the very top and there is a middle hook that is fixed and the middle hook is exactly where it should be and then those 2 side hooks you can slide around, which makes it very nice to use because, scrolls are not the same width. They could be very skinny, they could be very wide, and having a possibility to move those extra hooks and adjust depending on the width of your scrolls sounds very nice. But this tells you, to spread them evenly. I guess it's a next level.
An exciting idea.
Yeah, that's a next level, make them movable so that you can adjust them to exactly the sampuku that you have, the free scrolls that you have.
Yeah, but depends on what you have. Maybe you have 2 pictures.
Yeah, but then if you have 2, it's impossible if your hooks are already fixed.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But if you had the movable hooks, the slidable hooks,
then no problem.
Solved it.
Exactly. Yeah, great idea. Yeah, it's kind of sad that we have only 1 middle hook nowadays usually, isn't it? We're minimalist.
I have a tendency to have small tokonomas. Like I'm sitting in the misia of my 3-mat room because that's the only quiet place where I was able to put up a microphone. But the tokonoma that I'm basically leaning my back towards and kind of the misia side of the tokonoma is tiny. So it's only about 1 meter wide. So in there I struggle to fit even horizontal scrolls.
Right.
So 2 scrolls are out of the question unless they're like super skinny.
2 tanzakus.
Yeah, that could go. But usually the tanzaku is hung in a much wider scroll-like hanging device. I don't remember what they call, but 2 of them might.
Tanzaku kake.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there is tanzaku kakes that are specifically for tanzaku and then they're quite skinny.
Interesting. I think maybe this is a good place to end today's episode.
Yeah. Thank you, Marius. You gave me a nice idea to think about. I'll plan my Ikkyaku Itte now. So
That's good. We'll expect a report after the fact.
Okay.
So like a little verbal atomic.
Right. It might not be very soon. We still have 1 month here in Colorado. But who knows? Things might happen. Okay. Yeah, thank you for a great talk.
Great talking to you. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
This has been a production of TeaLife Audio. Producing an episode requires a bit of time and money. We do the work for free and hope you will help us cover the cost. Go to tealife.audio/support to help us bring another episode to your tea world. The taste of matcha when there is no one to talk tea. TeaLife Audio.